goal is at the agency level, at the corporate level, even if you're a freelancer, the minute you touch anything that's going to go online, you become a publisher. And you've got to start thinking like a publisher. Because these are not products that we craft and that we're finished with and that we send off into the ether. These are products where once we send them out there, they're out there. And people can access them, they can take them, they can rework them, they can share them, they can read them, they can complain about them, they can make fun of them. And so in that sense, you can't act like a lone cowboy, because publishers depend on other people to ensure that their final product is coherent, and that it is relevant, and that it has impact, and that it tells a good story that people are going to want to read and share with other people. So I want to touch real quickly. I have, what, 2 minutes? Where's Chris? I can never remember how much time I have. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep talking. 40 minutes later. So these are the quick things that I want to provide to you guys as a few takeaways for how you can begin to care for your content, which is the reason that we all build stuff online. You can audit it. This is a content inventory. How many of you have seen one of these before? How many of you have done a content audit before? How many of you loved doing that content audit? You did? Come see me after. I'd love to. I have cookies for you. As for the rest of you, I don't care. You need to do it anyway. You've got to understand what you have, what your world of content is, before you can start to make changes. If you work at the University of Minnesota, you have 200,000 billion pages of content. You are not going to be able to go in here and hand count those pages. However, it is on you to begin to figure out a long-term plan for wrangling that content. Because it's out there, and you keep publishing more, and it's not going away. And your problem's just going to get bigger, and Wall-E is not going to save you from that. So begin to ask for and allocate resources to at least begin to try to get your problem under control, or get your arms around what it is, before you start deciding to redesign the home page again. Because that's not going to help. Nor is a CMS, a new CMS. The second thing is you can begin to ask. No matter who you are within the project process or where you are, you can ask these questions. It doesn't always mean that you're going to get an answer. It doesn't always mean that you're going to like the answer. But the thing is, you begin to get people thinking about these questions specifically as they pertain to content. And again, that is a huge mind shift from where we have been, because these are the questions that we tend to race on past as we're thinking about our technology and our visual and our code. The third thing is to analyze. So remember, this is your content life cycle. So we need to start thinking about all the different components that exist within this life cycle, and what the impact factors are, both internally and externally, that can touch our content and affect it at any point in time during this process. Here's the other thing that we need to audit: our people. Because this is another thing that we tend to sort of gloss over when we're thinking about content development. We just assume that everybody has the time and the tools and the perspective and the context to get it done. But in reality, everybody is still kind of doing web content on top of everything else. This is like what they have to, this is like, oh, by the way, here's this new part of your job that you're not going to get a raise and you're just going to stay after work to do it. So people are actually kind of bitter about having to do web content a lot of the time. So it's important that we begin to talk to them and that we understand their obstacles, that we hear their ideas and their perspectives, because they're the ones that are on the front lines with this content. They're the ones that are going to see opportunity. At the same time, they are also the ones that are going to believe that, yes, in fact, they do need these 400 pages to tell the About Us story. And that, in fact, yes, we do need to publish the entire annual report in HTML, with whatever. Like, people don't care about that. They do. And so we've got to make sure that they are heard, but we also need to make sure that we have some kind of a firm strategy in place and governance policies and standards in place, so that when we do say no, when someone is finally empowered to say no, that we have reasons for saying no, and it's not just because that's a dumb idea. The fourth thing we need to do is align. So this is where we're going. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's probably not even going to happen next year. I mean, what we're talking about now with content strategy is a very similar conversation that we were having, that information architects were starting 10 years ago, where they were like, hey, we matter too, and structure is important, and everybody was like, whatever, look at Flash. So this is really the paradigm. I'm going to bust out that word once. It's the only time I will use it, but this is what we're working towards, which is where we have invested in and we have identified a plan for our content. And that content is something that we begin to care for in a cyclical fashion, that we've actually committed full-time ongoing resources for, and not just sort of the continuing buckshot, okay, we're going to pay attention to this content and then we'll get back to it later. And then this is the fifth thing, and this is what we've been talking about pretty much the entire time since I've been up here, which is that we need to start, if we want our end product to get any better, if we want our users' experiences to get any better, we need to begin assuming responsibility. We need to actually begin to call out, oh yeah, this sentence structure sucks, and even though I'm, in the coding process, I'm just going to fire this off to my team lead and sort of say, is this really what we're publishing? You just want to check with somebody? You may never hear back, but you've put in your little 2 cents. They've noted, oh, something fell down in the QA process. And that's what we need to do to just get the conversation started. I'm not asking for any necessarily huge sweeping changes unless you are a manager that can actually change process, in which case come see me because I have words for you. But if this is the majority of the audiences I speak to feel incredibly disempowered about content, even if they are the ones creating content. But we all need to come together and begin to take responsibility for our content quality and for the resources that are being allocated. We just have to start the conversation. That's all I'm asking for today. And what do you get? One of the big challenges and one of the big sort of holy grails right now within the ever-growing content strategy community is being able to specifically tie content strategy efforts to the business's bottom line. Because at the end of the day, the CMO does not care if fixing the content is the right thing for the end user. They really don't. They want to know how it's either going to make or save them money. So this is the other key thing. Everybody's measures of success within their departments, within their organizations are different. But it becomes then our job, however small our content initiative, to begin to tie the results of that, to begin to be able to measure the results of that and tie those to our bottom line business objectives. There's not going to be any, it's hard, right? Like this is why SEO is so huge, because everybody can just be like, hey, this is how many pages you got, or you're number 3 in the rankings. It's really easy to measure, but at the end of the day, like you can make data to say whatever it is that you want, right? So do that for content strategy.